From the start to the finish, go hard and we winning. It's the heart of a villain, it's the heart of a villain. From the start to the finish, go hard and we winning. It's the heart of a villain, it's the heart of a villain. Hey yo, heart of a villain beats hard in the centrifuge. Bearded BP, 100 interviews. All it takes is 2 mics and 1 line. This is Bearded Villains podcast worldwide. Driving cross countries, getting ball tires. Fam across ponds, always inspired. Chapters connect, and then it's on fire. Check your phone, cause BV is like a live wire. They said that we couldn't do it and that another could. Never underestimate the power of brotherhood. Every bro, every chapter, every caption. Heart of a villain, bro. Lights, camera, action. Action, action, action. Let's go. BP. From the start to the finish, go hard and we winning. It's the heart of a villain.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Thursday night edition of The Heart of a Villain, the podcast and live stream devoted to the Bearded Villains Worldwide Brotherhood, but not tonight. Not tonight. We're expanding our horizons. That's right. We are going to expand our horizons tonight, boys and girls, because our guest is from another bearding podcast. That's right. I'm going to be bringing in a gentleman known by some as Ray, known by others as Bearded Rook. And we're going to bring him in just a few minutes. But this has been... Oh, let me get over the hump here real quick. This is episode 176. Oh, I'm sorry, 187. 187 of this here show. Man, 13 episodes away from the big 200. It is the 10th of August. I am all discombobulated because I'm still on the old show that I was just doing just last few minutes ago, really. For those of you who are not aware, myself and Bearded Rook, Ray, with Bearding Without Borders, we have been talking for a bit about doing this idea where we want to talk about the things that divide us as clubs, but now we need to be focused on bringing everybody together within the bearding community and reaching out. And as his show is titled Bearding Without Borders, right? And so we've been talking about this idea, and tonight came to fruition. We decided to do 2 episodes back to back. First episode on his show and second episode on my show. And so it's been a fun time, 2 hours of podcasting back to back. And for those of you who watched the first hour over on his show that are here, this may be, we have no idea. This is kind of unscripted because we wanted to keep it that way. But we may end up covering some of the same points of view and whatnot that we did the last hour. But those of you who have not taken that time to watch, didn't hear about that enough time, didn't get over there to watch his show, it'll all be new information. So, we'll make do with what we can. So tonight, as you know, it's rare that I get to have a guest where we just have a flowing conversation that just goes, and it doesn't feel like, you're pulling teeth, or it doesn't feel like you're bound by time frames or constraints or anything like that. So tonight, that's what we're going to do. We're just going to talk, and I'm going to include some of your all's comments that are in the, did I just say your all's? I said your alls. I'll include some of all the comments that are coming in the comment section, and we'll just see where the night takes us, as we say sometimes. But I'm looking forward to this because it's a really fun conversation that we had last hour, and I think it's something that needs to be addressed, needs to be talked about a little bit. So first, I want to give a shout out, as I always do, to the people that are here live. At least live in the comment section, who have gone out of their way to say hello in our comment section. If I can get my mouse cursor going here. All right. I just want to say there's very few of you that have spoken up. So we only have a handful of these right now. Buddy, how you doing? Good to see you here tonight. Good. He thought he was a little early. No, probably just combination of maybe you being early and me being late. But the show was an hour early tonight, so maybe that's throwing some people off. Some of our numbers are a little bit down tonight, so I don't know if people didn't see the memo that I put out. I don't know. Jacked Up Leatherworks. We just saw each other last hour. Good to see you here. Thanks for being here. Just subscribed. Ooh, love to see that. JD says, let's get this party started. Yeah, you're jonesing with the drinks, and you're antsy for me to get going. I know. And then he got really antsy with it and just said, let's go. All right, well, fine. We're here. And I know there's other people watching that are not commenting. That's great. So tonight, I'm not going to be talking about specifically chapter merch, any new releases or anything like that. I don't think I've seen any chapter merch release come across in the last week specifically, at least none that I've seen that struck my fancy that weren't already out there. And no big chapter news specifically that I saw come across. So we'll forego those little segments that we normally do. And hey, I'm just going to get into it and bring in our guest. Now, as I said, I've been talking with this fine gentleman here for several months, and he actually approached me. It was something I was trying to figure out a way that I could do this without it being just me talking about this. And I know during the Heart of a Villain podcast, there have been times we've gotten into discussions talking about how we need to be out there supporting not just villains, but we need to be supporting other chapters as well that are out there in the bearded community. But when Ray reached out and was like, hey, what do you think about this idea? I thought, that's a damn fine idea. And so over the last several months, we've been back and forth talking about trying to make it work. And we've just finally said, hey, let's just do it. Let's just make it happen. And so last hour, as I said, was on his show. This hour, he is here with us, joining us. And I may have to adjust his name tag here because I have Ray, but he shows himself on his show as Bearded Rook. So I can do that live while we're talking. But how you doing today, buddy?
What's up, man? Hey, look, you popped the top during my show, so
Do it.
I'll pop the top during yours.
There you go. Rider of Tears. I like it.
It's an Irish whiskey. It's a triple distilled Irish whiskey. This was a gift from the father of a bride I officiated a wedding for a little bit ago, and back in May, as a matter of fact. And you can see that it's pretty good.
It must be good. Yeah. Yeah.
It's become my show drink. So you were talking about like during your show you usually pop a top, and I usually do too. And then tonight I was in a mad scramble to get on, and so I just grabbed my regular cup and was like, I'll just get some tea and stuff. And
yeah,
so
when I heard you pouring earlier, I was like, boy, he's pouring a lot of whiskey. Well, that was tea.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time I'd poured a tumbler full of whiskey, but
no, we've all done it. But we'd like to be upright by the end of the show anyway. So at least as close as we can. But yeah, it's funny. The bottle that I was, as you noticed, if you were watching the previous episode on his show, I was struggling for the first couple minutes down here with my hands trying to get something popped open. And it's the strangest thing of all. It's an old staple that doesn't get the credit. Well, people in whiskey circles know how good it is, even at the cheap price. But the old Granddad 114. And for some reason, I could not get the little plastic piece of junk off the cork to open the thing. So I had to get a knife out to do it. I couldn't make it work. So that's what I'm sipping on tonight.
Old Granddad is not a bad choice. If you're balling on a budget, Old Granddad 114 is a good one to go with.
Yeah. For a mid-20s $20 bottle, I think it beats out some $40, $50 bottles easily. So
I've been on an Irish whiskey kick.
Okay.
That's been my thing over the last several months because I'm a bourbon connoisseur, as you can read from the shirt.
Yeah.
Bourbon.
Well, it's on your shirt, so it must be true.
Right. You've been on Wikipedia too, huh?
I have.
But I've been on the Irish whiskey kick, and now I don't drink mine straight. I have to have a little bit of ice for dilution, but
yeah, I stopped doing. I didn't like it. To me, maybe it was because it was too hot in my mic or in my ears. But every time I would try to drink anything with ice when I was on a microphone, that's all I heard. And so I was like,
clink, yeah.
Yeah, and so, but then I just discovered I stopped drinking probably about a year and a half ago. I stopped drinking anything unless it's like an old fashioned, but any whiskey or bourbon straight, I would just straight. And I've just found that, well, two things. I enjoy the flavor a lot more, but it's very easy to find yourself with a half empty bottle in one sitting when you do that.
So I know this has turned more into whiskey talk than it is beer
Hey,
talk,
we'll get
but
there.
there is a whiskey, and it's called Sons of Erin. It's an Irish whiskey. It's made by the same company that distills and distributes Teeling.
Okay.
Teeling is my favorite Irish whiskey.
I've got some right over there.
I've got a scarf that's a funny story. I went to, I agree, it is just as good as Smoke Wagon, but
Yeah.
I did I went and did the St. Patrick's Day parade with Derby City Whisker Club down in Louisville, Kentucky this year, and we were walking through the parade, and this I was handing out candy, and this woman traded me a Teeling Irish whiskey scarf for 2 handfuls of candy. She was hammered, but I wasn't going to turn down the deal, so.
Oh,
It's like I was like, cool. I got a freaking scarf out of the deal.
yeah. For nothing, because you were giving that stuff out anyway.
But I got so the same company that makes Teeling makes this one called Sons of Erin,
Okay.
and I didn't realize how good it is. It's very smooth Irish whiskey. I call it a creeper because you can when I first had it, I was getting Irish whiskey and ginger ale, which is one of my favorite drinks, especially if I'm out at a beard comp or something like that. Most of the time, they don't have the bourbon that I like, so I started going to Irish whiskey and ginger ale because it's an easy drink to get through. It tastes good. But I was pouring doubles of this Irish whiskey, and I killed a bottle in one sitting at a bar, and I still was like, man, I was like, do you guys have another bottle back there? I was like, I've already started drinking this, like, might as well continue.
Well,
It's like, no, you cracked the seal and finished it in one shot. So,
but you know what? You can't beat yourself up too much of it, because if I'm not mistaken, now this may be showing my noob side. I mean, not really a noob. I mean, I've been a bourbon connoisseur for a while myself, but I dab occasionally into the Irish whiskeys. But one thing that I've found that is weird, I find it weird over here with the American whiskeys, and especially the bourbons. You have this huge variance of proof, but with Irish whiskey, it seems like almost everything is the same proof, and especially with Scotch.
yes.
And so you have to get really picky, because you don't have the proof that changes that can alter some of the flavors. It's all about the different makeup of what's in there that changes and alters the flavor of it. It's not the alcohol content that does that. But at the same time, it's very, very easy on a Scotch, I think, especially if you're somebody who drinks, bottled and bond or 100 proof or more on a regular basis with your whiskey or your bourbon. Very easy to find yourself with an empty bottle pretty quickly of Irish whiskey or Scotch. So don't beat yourself up over it, because it's only usually like 80 proof.
Right. Scotch is one that I'm very picky with Scotch. For me, like Irish whiskey, there's 3 holy trinities. That is Jameson, Teeling, and now Sons of Erin. And this is a good substitution to it, but those are my 3 holy trinities. Now, Scotch, I am very much so very picky with my Scotch. I have a bottle of Macallan 15-year double cask.
There you go.
My wife bought me for a couple Christmases ago, and I've had 3 drinks out of the entire glass.
Yep.
Might have taken 6 fingers total out of the bottle, and I don't break it out but for special occasions.
Right.
So, but I love it.
Yes.
It's a wonderful drink. But there is a lot of Scotches out there that are just over the top, too peaty, like, and what people don't realize is,
are you not an Ardbeg fan?
no, I got to be in the mood for Glenfiddich, like,
yeah.
But and what people don't realize is when you pop that cork on a bottle of Scotch, when the air hits it, it changes the profile. So, and that's why I tell people, if you're going to pour a glass of Scotch, you pour a finger, maybe 2 fingers worth, and then you let it sit for a few minutes. That way it aerates.
Yeah.
Because it changes the flavor profile.
Yeah. I've got a bottle of the 10-year Ardbeg upstairs that I have to be in the mood for it. And when I do, I pour very little. And it's definitely not for me something that you can sip on throughout the night. It's like a one and done, because I think for me, it trashes my palate. But so I have to be in a specific mood for it. But for me, what's even more fun is when you have friends over that have never tried it. And they want to try, because they see like you have a bunch of bottles and they want to try different things. And I've got probably about 6 or 7 of the little tiny tasting glasses. And so I'll let them try different things. And whenever I get to the Ardbeg, it's hysterical because I know where it's coming. Some of them don't even get it past their nose. But it's just funny. I mean, I used to think, before I ever tried Ardbeg, I used to think that Johnny Walker was, peaty, and Johnny Walker's nothing compared to
Johnny Walker's a good sipping whiskey.
Yeah.
I don't actually put Johnny Walker on my Scotch list anymore.
I have a bottle that's almost empty, but I've had it for years, and it was given to me. So
I have a double black that I've had for 7 years, I think, and there's probably about that much left in the bottom of the bottle. People are like, "Oh, that's a good Scotch." I'm like, it's not a Scotch. It's a blended whiskey. It's all
whiskey. Yeah,
but it's good. It's not a Scotch, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, if you get up into the higher money bottles, like a Blue Label, something like that, it's a little more Scotch-like.
Yeah.
But I consider Johnny Walker just a blended whiskey.
Well, it even says so on the bottle.
Yeah.
So
it's a Scotch whiskey mashup. But
yeah, and speaking of Macallan, when you were saying how protective you are of the 15, I have a bottle of 12 that I treat like it's a 15 because for the price, every once in a while you find it for a decent price, but not very often.
No.
And so, but I found the very first bottle I had of the 12, I actually found it on a really good deal. But apparently it was I couldn't get back to buy more at the same deal at the same place before the price went back up.
Right.
And I found that I emptied the bottle in like a 3-night period because it was so good. Because like I said, I'm by no means I don't consider myself like a dead on alcoholic or anything, but when I'm used to drinking 100 easily, to 114, 15 on a regular, when I would drink some, and that the 80 that it just goes down way too smooth, and you're just like, where'd the rest of that bottle go? And so now I have to treat the Macallan 12 that I have like it's, super, super fancy, because I don't want to have to go out and buy another, $75 bottle.
And I'll be 100% honest with you. I absolutely adore Macallan 12 year. It is, to this day, it like just about any of the Macallans, 12, 15, 18, and a 20 are some of my favorite Scotches on the planet. Macallan 12, on our 12-year anniversary, mine and my wife's, that's what I chose to drink that night. For the symbolism of it. You know what? I agree with Rob here. You experience it is, and it is an experience when you get into that world, when you start getting into the whiskeys and the bourbons and the Scotches. And I think it's almost like a rite of passage. Once you hit a certain age as a man, like you start kind of developing into that world and wanting, if you're a drinker anyway, you got to at least experience it once. So,
yeah. For those who don't know, many of the regulars on the show know Rob is actually chiming in from England, and it's 2:00 in the morning over there. But
thank you, sir.
Knowing Rob, how I do, I read his comments always with his accent, and hearing him say it, and that's what made me really giggle, because hearing him say, "You don't drink Scotch," experience, just the way he says things, made me laugh.
What part of England is he from?
Currently, I think he lives. Well, you know what? I'm not sure exactly where he's living right now.
Where are you from, Rob? I need to know, that way I can picture the accent as well.
Drop it in there. I know he lived halfway between where we went when I was over there, between London and Manchester. I'm not sure exactly where in there because we dropped him off at his house, but over there everything blends together, at least to my American eyes, when you're not in a city, and so I couldn't tell you exactly
Oh, you couldn't tell me where Stoke-on-Kent is or anything like that. Come on, man.
No, I'm terrible. But I just sat in the back seat of a car for the entire time we're driving around. So,
I mean, that's fair. I don't know. I like as much as I would love to drive in England. I don't know if it'd be wise for me to drive in England.
It's funny that I actually videotaped when when I was in the back seat when we're driving through parts of London, because he's currently in Northampton. Okay, but it's funny because when you're in the city, their streets are so freaking narrow, and they've got these things over there where it's like when you come into a neighborhood, they've almost got like brick walls that are like the beginning of a street, or these segments or whatever it is that kind of separate where you were from where you're going, and it turns into like a narrow one-way entrance. It seems like it's a narrow one-way entrance, but sometimes they get two cars through there. But they are so used to just driving on these narrow, what seem like one-way roads, and they'll drive right past a double-decker bus at 40 miles an hour like it's nothing. And it's like, this is normal for you guys? I don't get it. It's like, it's kind of like, Back to the Future when they're driving up in the clouds in the air, and there's no lanes. It feels like that. It felt like that at times. It's like there's no real lanes out here, but everybody knows what they're doing. So okay.
Bus wars.
Yeah, bus wars. True. So yeah, I had no idea, but hey, all right. So we've been talking for about 20 minutes on everything.
Longer than you expected episode.
You what?
I think this episode is going to be longer than you expect.
Might be. But we've talked about everything else but what we wanted to talk about tonight. But I want to do what you did for me to start off, and introduce yourself to all of us that are watching, for those that don't know who you are, and kind of talk about your how you found yourself in the bearding community, and then also how you just decided to develop your own show.
So my name is Ray, also known as Bearded Rook to some in the community, and I am the host of Bearding Without Borders. I started this show last year. I am currently, you know what? I can't even tell you what episode I'm on anymore because I forgot. I stopped numbering them after a while, but I'm in the 50s. I want to say I'm somewhere around like 55, episode 55,
All right.
or somewhere in that vicinity. But allow myself to introduce myself. Yes. So I actually came into the community not too long, probably not too long after you did, BP. I joined in the community, found the community, and started kind of getting into it about 2017. And I actually kind of stumbled across it. I had seen bits and pieces of Whisker Wars years before, and I had heard about, see the end of my cape there. Let me just kind of shift this a little.
Sorry, no. I'll switch back and forth between you there. That way I can put the focus. I put the focus on you as you're talking, so I can pick my nose if I need to or something.
I feel horrible because I don't have my mustache up right now. So
that's all right.
But I actually found the community based on my barber, of all people. He was giving me a haircut and a beard trim one day, and he's like, "Have you ever thought about joining a beard club?" And I said, "What the hell's a beard club?" And so he was like, "Dude, he's like, a bunch of guys get together. They come up, they go out, they drink, they go to beard competitions." And I was like, "Oh, I'll have to check this out." So I started doing a bunch of research on it, and realized that I had a connection with a group down here in Kentucky called Beard and Loathing, because I had worked at haunted houses over the years with a gentleman named Chris Davis, also known as Drizzle, and he had belonged to a club called Beard and Loathing. And so when I put the feeler out that hey, I was thinking about joining a beard club, I started getting offers from several different places. And matter of fact, I want to say at the time, the Villains was one of the ones I was looking at. But I ended up finding a home with Mad Viking Beard and Mustache Club, and it was because of a gentleman named Patrick. His club name was Crayons. He was a former Marine, white. Sadly, he's passed away now. For some of the people that are in and around the community, around Kentucky, Ohio, Tennessee, they'll know who. Most of them will know who he is, in Southern Indiana, of course. So, but I showed up to a beard competition, and he walked up, introduced himself, and next thing I know, it's 2 hours later, and I've been sitting outside with this guy for 2 hours having a conversation like I've known him my entire life.
Mm.
And he said, "Man, you should join us and be a part of our club." And so that was kind of that was all she wrote. Like, I immediately was like, I came home, looked at my wife, and I was like, "I think I'm joining a beard club." she said, "Okay." And so I was like, "You got to see this guy's beard." And Patrick, God love him, he had this big beard, a big, like, salt and pepper is all I could describe it as. Just over 12 inches, just gorgeous beard. And I'm still a little envious on like how much volume he had in his beard. And I was like, "You got to see this guy." And so I showed her pictures, and then she's like, "Okay, so you're going to join a beard club. What's this, what's this entail?" And I was like, "I have no idea." I was like, "These just seem like a really cool bunch of people." I was just like, I'm joining a beard club.
Oh, doing it. Yeah.
So, uh, like a month later, go to a meeting, and then I start really getting into what the community was. Started talking about charity work and stuff like that. And, because like at the time, the only thing I really knew was like it was a bunch of people getting together to have fun and go to beard competitions, but I didn't have a lot of details otherwise. And then I started getting into the meat and potatoes of what this side of the community does. And their focus was 100% pretty much charity based, finding groups to work with. And I, being a part of the Independent Order of Oddfellows at the time, really resonated with that.
Yeah.
So, and when I found the community, I was and I'm going to backtrack just a little bit. I was in a very weird spot emotionally, and probably the best word would be like politically, because like I had spent the better part of 5 years inside the vape industry and traveling the country and up all night talking to vendors across the world, setting up and doing sales. And, I had my own company at one time, and, but I had partnered with other companies, and I got dropped kind of like a bad habit at the beginning of 2017 and kind of lost myself because that was my identity for ages. So when I came into the community, it was like finding a new home. And I agree 100%. Patrick was an amazing artist. I'm actually getting a piece done, one of his pieces done up on my arm sometime, hopefully before the end of this year.
That's very cool.
But the community, I was in a very dark place, mentally and emotionally, and the community gave me new hope. It gave me something to grab onto when I felt like I didn't know who I was anymore. And I will forever be grateful to that, because it gave me a family that, like I got my immediate family, but like it gave me like-minded, it brought me to a group of like-minded individuals that I could do other things with. And that's something that I was desperately craving at the time. And fast forward a little bit, I went to my first official competition that I competed in 2018 at Beards Behind Bars Part 2 up in Mansfield, Ohio. and got my taste for competing there. Even though it took me another 2 years before I competed, because really what I wanted to focus on was doing more of the charity work and doing the camaraderie side. Um, During that time, we took water to Inez, Kentucky. We took over 1,100 gallons of potable drinking water to Inez, Kentucky, which for most people they don't know is their water situation is very similar to Flint, Michigan.
Oh,
Um,
that's all you
they're
need to say.
yeah, they're a coal mining town that the town the pipes and whatnot in the town were, like corrosive material from slag runoff and stuff like that. Most of the families down there don't use the water in their faucets and stuff like that. They boil their water. They do it old school.
Mm,
They boil their water, pull it from the creek, stuff like that, because of slag runoff.
wow.
And we took like 1,100 gallons of potable drinking water down there. We did stuff for the Ronald McDonald House. We, went over and did breakfast one morning. We still collect pop tabs, soda can tabs for the Ronald McDonald House, because they turn them in, donate it, recycle them, get the money, and they donate it out for cancer research and stuff. Um, but those were the things that I was really into, and then just getting out and doing more in the community. So I owe the beer community a lot, and you know I started, like I said, I put more focus on the charity side, and I started regularly competing last year. I finally decided, I was like, I've done one side of the community for this many years, and now I want to be a little more out in public and doing more things, because like for me, like doing the charity side is, it's not about being noticed. Like, I don't care about that.
Right.
Um, like even now doing the show, I still don't necessarily care. Uh, you know, I don't think it's right to, let me rephrase that, because that's a bad way to put it. I get why, like these competitions, they document and they show how much they've raised and stuff like that, and that's awesome. But for me, like personally, I will tell you how much we raised, but like I'm not going to document delivering the check or anything like that personally. Like, we raised $1,800 for the Kentucky Lyme disease at the competition I ran back in May. I donated the money anonymously. Uh, I didn't feel the need to go out there and broadcast it, and it's because like I thanked everybody for that helped, but I kept it, like it was about giving to the charity and not about, you know giving myself praise, because I just, that still to this day kind of bothers me,
Yeah.
on a personal level. Like, I get why other people do it. For me, I have a hard time coping with putting what I do out there.
It's a completely valid point. And it's not one that I follow myself, but for different reasons, I think. But it's a completely valid point. And there's guys that I talk to on a daily basis that they're exactly right on point with you. My biggest perspective kind of goes to my perspective on that theory is that it goes more toward one of the reasons why I created this show was because I wanted an avenue where other villains out there could learn what's going on in the lives of other villains. I wanted, because it's a worldwide brotherhood, and so I wanted a way that I may only have 5 people watching live, I may only have 10 people watching live, and I may only have 20 people making a download a week on some episodes. It doesn't matter, but it's out there and people can find it. And if one person shares it to another person with a direct link and says, "Hey, did you see this?" But I want a resource where brothers around the world can hear and see that it's not a matter of bragging. I want guys to take it from the side of, hey, have you ever thought about doing this? Because we're able to do this over here. Maybe you could try to do, because there's a lot of guys out there, and I think it's true not just in the villains, but I think there's beard clubs out there where you have members that are they want to do something,
Yeah.
but they're stuck. They want to help out, but they don't know where to begin. There's people sometimes will say that they hear about all the big names, American Cancer Society, all the different things of Red Cross and all the different names that are out there of different things that people can donate to. But they may not know about all the little things that are out there in the world that can be done. And so that's why I try to tell guys, take that. It's a difference between, fanaticizing it and making it a big deal, that you're doing it just to do it. So like I make a difference between people that take a photo of a delivery of something versus somebody that's taking video footage of them actively working with the homeless in time, so that it's almost like you're making it seem like, hey, look at me, look at all these homeless people that we're helping. That's a different thing. But I want people to be able to celebrate the fact that there's things that we can do out there. And I've actually had guys reach out to me, especially in the first year of the show, that I came across and said, hey, I just want to let you know, we were stuck as a chapter. We didn't know, we wanted to do some stuff. We were always looking for something to be able to work with. And we never thought to think for a second that there might be XYZ organization close to us. But because on your show, we heard about this organization and we started looking around because we loved what that organization did. We started looking around and realized there's one just 2 hours away from us that we wanted to partner with. And we did. And it was incredible. And so that made me feel like, hey, that tells me that it's working. Some people are hearing the message. And so that's where I take it from is it's not about shining a light on you personally. Right. It's about shining a light on the actual thing that you're doing, the organization, to say, you guys can do this too. And here's how.
And I agree with you. And I hope you didn't take,
No, I didn't.
Wrong.
I just think you had a good point.
Like, yeah. And that's the hard, and it's a habit that I'm trying to break. And I 100% agree with Mr. Rodriguez here, is charity starts at home. And that's the reason why, for me, because of Patrick, when he passed away, he fought with Lyme disease. And a lot of people don't know a lot about Lyme disease and what it does. And it's it comes from tick bites, but it messes with your chemicals in your brain and becomes a neurological problem. And he lost his battle with Lyme disease. And so for me, because it's such a overlooked disease, for me, that's the one that I choose to support the most. And yeah, and 100%, I 100% agree with what you guys are saying on that. And I for me, I look at it as, on a personal level, I'm trying to kind of break that to where I get out and I want the community to be a little more involved. It's just, if I'm the one that's doing, I ran this competition and I didn't feel right just being like, hey, look what I'm doing. I'm handing it in. On a personal level, it's because I'm so used to being behind the scenes on the charity side of it.
Right.
As a group, I love showing the pictures of going out, giving food to Arbor Youth or something like that. But as a personal, one-on-one, to me, it feels then I feel like I'm glorifying myself. And I'm always been behind the scenes when it comes to that. I would rather I'd rather walk up to you and slip you an envelope in your pocket and say, you need this, take care of your things. And, right. So that is something I've got to learn to break as we move forward.
It's not something that everybody's comfortable with. I mean, no matter what I say to some people, and no matter how much I present that argument to people, they still, it's just not something they're comfortable with. And that's great. There's guys I know within my chapter, and I know them well enough to know that they kind of have that feeling too. And when we go out, our annual event that we have coming up in October, it's a Halloween costume contest, beard competition, and now this year going to be adding in a tattoo contest. But we don't treat it just as a beard comp. We treat it as an event. It's a
Right.
thing. It's a big deal. Lots of stuff going on. And we've been, since year one, this will be the third year we do it, but we've raised money and items for Ronald McDonald Houses Northern Indiana. We have 2 Ronald McDonald Houses in our area that are separated by about 2 hours. And what we found is that the timing of our event, because we do it the week before Halloween, I myself had a direct connection to Ronald McDonald House when my first son was born. He was in the NICU for almost 2 weeks. And my personal side of it was simply that I didn't feel they approached us as a family if we wanted the services of the Ronald McDonald House up in Chicago at the time, because that's how serious he was. He had to go to Chicago. But we turned him down because we said we didn't feel like our situation warranted that. We were like, there's other families that have to, seriously, I mean, there have to be families out there that are, your services are warranted more for them. We're fine. But in, talking to these people over the years and learning that exactly what they do. And so that's why I was really, I really pushed for us to have this event for that, because it does twofold. Number one, we get to have fun and raise some money for the 2 houses that we split. But we also ask people to bring in snack foods and everything.
Right.
And what they do is they take that and they put it into their snack cart that they use year round, but also more specifically for that time of year with Halloween, because they have trick or treat stuff available at the actual hospital or at the Ron McDonald House during Halloween time.
Right.
And so we try to tie it in with that and have a lot of fun with it. So just kind of like the idea that, remember when you were a kid and you did after you got home after trick-or-treating, if you went out trick-or-treating, you got home, and at least for us, it was always, you dumped everything out to see what you had. And then you went through and you might trade some stuff and everything. So I loved the idea that because it's a Halloween event, when we go make the donations, and the last 2 years, I've filled up my van, my minivan full to the brim with all the donations. And we would go to one Ron McDonald House one day. And last year we went to both of them on the same day, but to tell them, okay, bring out your wagons to load up stuff. And how many do I need? Well, you'll need to probably start off with at least 4 or 5. And they're like, are you kidding? And so it's almost like that thing for us. It's so much fun because we do a check presentation with them, but we also have laid out all around us all of the food the snacks and stuff that we're able to donate. So it's kind of like a harken back to that thing when you were a kid and you were like, we're like, look at all this stuff, that everybody donated. And so that's kind of where we take that part of it. And it's a lot of fun for us. But
and I love
I totally get the side where you're coming from. And it's a struggle. It's an internal struggle.
It is an internal struggle, especially for me. So this is going to be a random little side trail. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but I'm also, not only I'm a former Oddfellow, I've been in the community, but I'm also a Kentucky Colonel.
You have to explain that now.
Okay, so it's an organization that highlights people for their work in the community.
Okay.
It's not something you apply for or anything else. You have to be nominated by another colonel. And then the board that selects the people that become Kentucky Colonels, they do their research on you. They look you up and see if you're worthy of the title. And then it goes to the governor, and the governor will sign off on it. And then they send you the official certificate. I didn't realize it either. Like, I didn't know I was getting.
Can I interrupt for just a second? Yeah. And I don't mean to make light of it. Do you get a white suit with a black bow tie?
I wish, and get the recipe, get the 11 herbs and spices to go with it.
Just because you're the Kentucky Colonel, it's right there. I had to.
And I actually think that's where his title come from.
Yeah.
But it's also had like other notable people like Fred Astaire. I think Bing Crosby. So, like, I love old movies and classics and whatnot.
So did you get put up for this?
I did. I got nominated by a Kentucky Colonel and was accepted.
Wow.
And
congratulations, bro.
Thank you. I've been one for a couple of years now, and I struggled with it. When I got the certificate in the mail, I had no idea who nominated me. I had no idea that I'd even been put up for it. And I struggled with it for weeks before I finally posted it, because I don't feel like I earned it, you know. Where some people, like some of the people that have been made Kentucky Colonels have been, it's more of a honorary title, you know, and so it doesn't hold the weight that it used to
Sure.
when they first started. But for me, it's an honor, you know, to somebody that's not native to Kentucky. You know, I moved here, oh, 15 years ago, 16 years ago, and so you know, like, but to be nominated
Mm-hmm.
and to be given that title, it was a big deal for me.
Yeah.
And so when I finally posted up about it, I said, I don't feel like I've earned this, but I'm going to do everything in my power to earn it.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I continually strive for, and to do the things that I want to do is to feel like I earn that. I like when I finish up, when I hang up my boots, you know, proverbially speaking, I want to feel like I earned the
Mm-hmm.
titles that I've been given,
Yeah.
and earned my reputation. And uh, but you know, those are the things that I didn't do in public.
Yeah.
Like, these, you know, when like they told, when I asked somebody that's a colonel that was, you know, friends with the board, I said, why did I get, you know, what was the big deal about, for me was like, because of the work you've done in the community, and you didn't go out and, you know, get praise for it. You didn't
Yeah.
try to seek out somebody, you know, say, look what I did.
Yeah.
So that was kind of why I've stuck to that mantra. But, and I know we've kind of gotten off the topic a little bit,
Well,
but
no, it ties into a lot of the stuff that we do when we talk about, kind of ties in with your story. I mean, your story makes it's, I'm sure it's going to be it's a familiar story that a lot of other guys have kind of experienced in the way that they found things. But um, when we talk about the reason that we wanted to do this tag team thing, and talking about recognizing, first off, as they say, recognizing there's a problem is the first step.
mhm,
Recognizing that there is a void or a chasm or a big open, you know, thing that you can't ignore
right.
out there in the world. That because when we had our private discussions, you know, I know the first time you said it, you kind of felt like you were hesitant to mention it, you know, worried about that it might come off the wrong way when we're
Is this
talking about, you
Is this
know.
PG? Or is this like PG, or
Oh,
can
you just
we?
talk it up, man. But
Okay, so
when
I
you
felt like I felt like when I first said it to you, I felt like I was talking shit,
no.
and you know, and I'm not trying to cut you off here. It's just like that was my first thought, was like, man, this guy's gonna think I'm talking shit, because as some of the as we talked on in the previous hour, is when I first got into the community and started going out and, you know, traveling around, and people were like, oh, those are the villains, just kind of they do their own thing, and you know, they said, well, villains do this and we do this, and so there was a clear divide,
Mm-hmm.
and I hated that,
Yeah.
because I could see that you guys were out there doing good things, and I was like, well, why aren't they involved with, you know, this side of the community? And I didn't realize that there was definitively
Yeah.
two sides of the community.
It's tangible. You can feel it in some places.
You can, and I hated that. Like, I even thought then, you know, early on, I was just like, it makes no sense to me that there's two sides of the community. Like, we're supposed to be one community, and but a lot of people have, you know, they're prejudiced. There's a lot of prejudice on both sides. Like, where it's like, oh well, they're not they're not a part of this group or this group, or they don't really fall inside this side of the community. And I know that there's a lot of villains that say, well, you're not a villain, so you're not really in this side of the community. And so when the show idea came up, and I'm trying to get back on track here.
No, that's right.
When the show came up last year, I had started running around doing some of the competitions, and I kind of put a feeler out, because like the whole point of the show was I wanted to introduce the community to the mainstream. The whole show has been my love letter to the beard and mustache community, and tell people stories that may not get that time, because most of the shows out there, you know, at the time, I mean, besides yours, has been more about, well, there's this comp coming up or this
Mhm.
comp coming up, or hey, they just had this comp. Let's talk to them about this. And I didn't want a show to fall into that line. And now I will admit that I have towed that line a little bit because it kind of, as well as I do doing a podcast, it's, you got to generate content. And so sometimes you fall into that rut, but
Well, but let's be honest. When you're talking about an event, you're talking about charity endeavors that these clubs are doing. So it's not you're not just giving a calendar of events per se. You're not just reading a calendar of events. You're talking to people that are involved in this and finding out why they're doing it and what charity it is. So yeah, you can't squash that at all. That's a perfectly reasonable
and
thing
it
to
is,
do.
but it was the original concept behind the show was to tell people's individual stories and why they work with the charities they work with. And I kind of got into this mode of, like, well, they got a comp coming up. Let's bring them on the show to talk about the charity. And it's still doing what I wanted for my mission statement of the show, but it became a lot easier to just go with relevancy. Um, of, hey, their comp's coming up, let's get them on.
Mhm.
They've got an event that's coming up a few months out, let's get them on so we can promote the event. And that, to me, like, it wasn't so much as a bad thing as it was just, I felt like I was stepping on other shows
Mm.
toes doing it. But the premise behind doing Bearding Without Borders was to do Bearding Without Borders. Like, as a member of Mad Viking, when I started the show, people said, "Oh, is it going to be a Mad Viking based show?" Because Mad Viking doesn't have their own show, and at the time, of course, uh, Beard Mob has their own show, Villains have their own show,
Unofficial.
some unofficial. Let me rephrase that. Unofficially, they have their own
Yes.
show, but you have a villain based show. Is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these, there was a lot of clubs out there that had their own thing going. I think even Bearded Rebellion has their own little
I think they
sideshow
do too.
thing that,
Yeah.
um, but so I was like with Bearded Without Borders, like, I didn't want it to be a one club show. I wanted it to encompass everybody. And I had friends say, "Oh, are you going to talk to villains?" I was like, "Yeah, fuck yeah, I'm going to talk to villains." Like that, if I don't, that doesn't encompass the community. And that's when it hit me. I was like, I need to find ways to bring villains into the community, on this side of the community, so that for the people that don't know any of these villains, like, I want to get them introduced and I want to help bridge that gap. Um, and it wasn't until Jeremiah Duncan and I had an episode earlier on this year that we were sitting there talking off air, and he was like, "Hey, have you heard of the Heart of a Villain podcast?" Because it was because I wanted to name the episode. I was looking at naming the episode. I was like, "The Life of a Villain," and I was like, "Well, I really wanted to go with the Heart of a Villain." And he's like, "Oh, there's a show called A Heart of a Villain," and I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, dude." He's like, "It's BP out of Northern Indiana." He's like, "You got to check this out." And he showed me the trailer for the documentary, and I was like, "Can you make introductions?" And he's like, "Yeah, just it's this person." And I was like, "All right, fuck it. I'm just gonna just do this
Yeah.
and reach out." So because
I'm so glad you did.
I saw this as a good way to get in. As like,
Yeah.
I wanted to I want to know more about the villain side of the community, for one, but two, I want the rest of the world to know more about the villain side of the community.
Yeah.
And I want to see if there's a way that, working together, we can drop some of the stigma,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. It's
like,
funny because I know we mentioned on your show last hour that I'd been doing a lot of thinking about trying to figure out what some of the reasons are that this stigma, this thing, this divide exists. And one of the things that first came up to me is that many of, and I could be completely wrong, and if I am, call me on it totally, because it's coming from my side of what I see in my interactions with just not only all the villains but also the other clubs and societies that are out there, is that many of the other ones that are non-villain, other than I think Mad Viking, where they do kind of treat themselves as a brotherhood club,
right.
but many of the others they don't. They're a social club. That's how they treat themselves, and so they don't get that real close knit tight group connection, which you've seen in the video, the trailer, that guys. just feel at home. They meet a brother for the very first time in person, but they're another villain, and it's a brotherhood, and there's a tight knit bond. And because of that, number one, that automatically makes guys feel inclusive to themselves, and unfortunately makes them feel, I think, without them knowing it, distances themselves from other clubs. But the thing that I kind of realized in this whole process of thinking through things, was to realize that, and this is old hash from what we did last episode, or last year, or
Still,
last hour, but much in the same way that all the villain chapters, especially a good example being stateside here in the U.S., much in the way that there's a West Coast meet, an East Coast meet, Dirty South, an LSV meet. There's Nash Vegas. There's the World meet when it's here in the States. There's Knox Villains. There's all sorts of. There's a Florida Summit. There's all these different regional meets that are going on, and there's only so many weekends in a year. And because there are so many chapters in the States, because there are so many brothers, the villains spend so much time supporting other villain events when they have time to travel. They don't have the opportunity, or they don't make the opportunity to go to non-villain sanctioned events a lot of the time, because they would rather do it within their brotherhood. But what I want people to realize is that it doesn't mean that you have to travel 5 states away,
right.
because in every state there is a beard and mustache society or a club or something out there that is close by you within a few hours. And what a cool thing it is if you can take 2 or 3 of your guys from your chapter to go down and take an afternoon and support this other club, this other
Right.
society that's out there, and what they're doing. And it could be a very small organization too. It could be a very small club that you're
Yeah.
going out to help, but just your presence and, opening up your hand to shake a hand and say, hey, we're here to support what it is you're doing. Because in the end, they're there 99.9% of the time. They're doing charity stuff too,
Yep.
specifically for charity. And that's what a lot of the villain events are for as well. And so it may not be a villain that you're helping or support, or a villain chapter, but you're still doing good. You're still helping out another organization. And I think that's a very, very key point, is that it's not saying that you have to go, like a perfect example. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but when we found out, and it wasn't until like 2 days ago that I really thought that I could make it work. But Beard Mob Indiana having their event Bearded Theater coming up this weekend. It's like a 2.5, 3 hour drive from us here in Northern Indiana. But I just kind of reached out to the guys. I was like, you know what? I'm not doing anything this Saturday. I wonder if any of our guys aren't doing anything Saturday. Can we possibly get a couple of guys to go down and do this cool event that they're going to do at this old fashioned, historic theater? And, can we possibly make that work? And so I put feelers out in our chapter chat, and I said, hey, and now it looks like at least 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 of us are going to make the trek down south to go to this thing. And it's one afternoon, evening. It's going to be a late night getting home, but it's a chance to support somebody else. And this is possible all across the country,
Yep.
here in the States. And I'm sure there's probably some aspects of it in other countries as well, Canada, England, wherever they're at.
Oh yeah.
But it's a chance to do something, and kind of take an olive branch, reach out and show people that, because let's be honest, there is a stigma. There is a stigma. We've talked about it. That's the hard truth of the fact that within, and I would easily say the majority of the non-villain bearded community, there's a stigma that the villains only care for themselves.
Yeah.
That the
And
villains don't
that
want
is very
to,
true.
that they don't want to play reindeer games with anybody else.
Yeah.
And I think that's our fault. And I think we need to do a better job about that.
I don't think it's just like, I think there's fault on both sides, and it's because and it's kind of the same thing that happens in a lot of things, whether it be our community or other communities or other industries. Is you got these people that just they kind of congregate because that's who they know, and it kind of comes off as cliquey, and then it turns into that. It just snowballs, and I hate that, because I'm the guy that when I show up to a competition or to an event, Like, I want to go around and shake everybody's hand. I want to get to know everybody. And I remember very clearly people saying, "Oh, those are the villains. They don't really associate with anybody else." And so it's not just on the villain side. There's a little bit of prejudice that comes in on the other side of the community, because that's what they're used to. And I'm like, and personally, I'm like, fuck that. Let's all do something fun together. And that's why I've reached out, and I know I'm not the most consistent person, because there's been times where me and BP have kind of fallen in and out in conversations. That's part of the reason why it took 6 months for this to happen. But there's so much opportunity, and if you don't mind, I'm going to give a shameless plug here for Aaron and Scott.
Yep.
If you are looking for something to do locally, there is a website called thebeardcalendar.com.
Absolutely.
And
So on my phone, front page.
Yep, they have every event that they get notified about gets put up on this, whether it be villain or other, it doesn't matter. And they book all the way out to 2024. If you can't find a competition in your area, you're not looking in the right place.
Yep.
Because there's always something going on. And it doesn't have to necessarily be a beard competition. I'm starting to see a trend of non-beard competition related events going on inside the beard community. Hoosier Beard Alliance in Southern Indiana,
they just
ran a bowling tournament.
Yeah, bowling tournament.
And I went down there for that, and it was a blast. And we raised over $5,000 without it being a beard competition.
Yeah.
And it was a great time. So
yeah, it's funny because and we've talked, I've talked about this, and we kind of touched on it during your episode last hour too, is that the funny thing is that one of your, and I can't remember who it was that made the comment, maybe you would, but one of your viewers last hour made the comment, villains need to open up and allow allow mustache and partial beard as well. And that, honestly, I don't see that ever happening, because the name is Bearded Villains, and they don't consider a beard anything less than ear to ear full beard.
That was Kyle Waller that made the comment. Yeah.
Yeah. So whereas people may not be able to be a member of Bearded Villains, they can still be around and hang out and be a supporter of your local Bearded Villain chapter. That's fine. And attend stuff. We do have people that are not Bearded Villains come to our events occasionally. It doesn't happen too often, but that I think is one of the key differences too between so many of the other and it's something you pointed out last hour, was that one of the key differences between Bearded Villains and all the other clubs, the majority of the other clubs that are out there, is that some clubs, to be a member of the club, some people allow women to be a part of the club.
Yeah.
And Bearded Villains will never do that. But most of the clubs, almost all of them, I think, outside of maybe one or two that are out there, to be a member of the club, because it's considered a facial hair and or something society or some group that allows all types of facial hair. So it doesn't matter if you only have a mustache. It doesn't matter if. So obviously, because that the Bearded Villains look at it as a full beard ear to ear, a mustache doesn't count, chops don't count, goatee doesn't count. All these other facial hair categories are accepted by other clubs and groups. Obviously, you're alienating a portion of the audience to begin with. But because of that, I think that's the key difference is the beard is the equalizer between both. You have to have a beard or a facial hair in the case of the others. But Bearded Villains runs its boat as a brotherhood of bearded men that do this stuff, whereas so many of the other clubs that are out there, it's not really a brotherhood. It's a social grouping, social gathering, social club that all makes and sizes of different facial hairs. In some cases, not. But
I want to touch on
something in the comments.
I agree with you. I want to touch on something in the comments. JD Moore, you can pull that up. He says that's silly. I've been to non-BV bearded, and I'm not saying that it's that it's everybody, man. Like, honestly, like, I mentioned this in my show is we were at U Matter 2 this year in LaGrange, Texas, and hung out with several of the bearded villains down there in Texas and loved every minute of it, and I'm not saying, and I don't want your viewers or your followers to think that I'm trashing on it, because honestly, I love BV. Some of my closest friends are BV. The three people, like I said in my show, the three people that are in my phone that are BV is BP, Jeremiah Duncan, and Ray Stovall from Slugger City, and I got nothing but love for you guys, and I consider you family. Uh, I think, and that's why I said I think that it's not everywhere, but it looks like it becomes kind of a snowballing effect. You get one bad apple in the bunch, and then that's the negative connotation that comes out of it. And so that becomes a stereotype, and
Right.
it shouldn't be that way. It happens. And I've made it a vow that I want to be at more BV related events going forward, to be more involved on that side, because it's what needs to happen in my book. In my mind is I want to be more involved. I want to come up to Northern Indiana in October and be involved in what you guys are doing, because Ronald McDonald is got a special place in my heart, because of my relationships with them.
The clown
And
or the place?
yes.
Yes to all.
No, honestly, Ronald McDonald House has a very profound meaning for me, just because I've worked with him for so many years down here in Lexington. So anything I can do to help them is a blessing. What's up, Brian? I'm not sure who you are, but nice to meet you.
He's actually one of my guys, one of my chapter
Is
guys.
it?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. He's one.
Early part, but
I don't know exactly how tall he is, but he's a super tall dude that has a wizard beard. It's awesome. If he was 5 foot tall, his beard would go down to his ankles probably.
Oh, please tell me.
Because he's well over 6+ something. I don't know. He's tall.
Is it a gray beard?
Yes.
It is. If his club name is not Dumbledore, you're missing out. Just saying.
Well,
and I mean that with
not everybody can be named,
because Dumbledore is probably the best. Is one of my favorite characters. I'm a nerd. I can't help it. So
that's all right. That's all good.
There was another one that commented earlier. Buddy Griffith. I don't know if is that Chattanooga?
Yeah, he's Chattanooga.
That's Roshi.
Yes.
Yeah, I know him as Buddy General, but
okay.
As Roshi. Roshi is honestly, he was one of the first people from Bearded Villains, Tennessee that I met back back when I think it was still Knox Villains or Smoky Mountain Villains before they split off. Broke bread with him, as they called it. I had a beer, him and I think his name was Ian, which I've heard he's no longer a part of the Villains, but I was down there. I was at the BVKY birthday celebration one year.
Oh.
And I had a beer, and he's like, "Well, what are you drinking?" I was like, "Here, try it." And he's like, "Shit, you broke bread with me now." So he's like, you're part of the family, and I still have the patches from that. I've got Roshi's patch over here as well. So
yeah, he's had a couple different variations of it. It's very funny. The day he gave me his first one, he was actually wearing a shirt that was almost a carbon copy of the shirt that was on his patch. It was hysterical. But
as a DBZ fan, I fell in love with that immediately.
Yeah. So. Yeah. But it's funny because when you talk about the stigma and stuff, and I'll be honest, there are actual chapters within Bearded Villains that have a even within our brotherhood that have a kind of a feeling of within the Bearded Villains. If people think Bearded Villains are kind of a tight-knit, stay by themselves thing, there are actual individual chapters within BV that are like that. And when we go to BV events, big BV events, a lot of times you almost feel like those guys within BV kind of stay by themselves. And so we see it from that side of it as well. But one of the things that, like yourself, that I want to help kind of push is to recognize that there's so many, it's like anything else. You you can be a member of a team. You can be a member of a team, and that's your guys. That's your team. But it doesn't mean that you have to not like or not get
Right.
along with. Look at all the professional athletes that are out there, and you hear stories about they're super competitive when they're out there on the court, the field, the ice, whatever it is. But some of these guys that they beat each other up when they're on there, but they're best friends off. And I think that those are the kind of examples that we can take forward and say, it doesn't really matter. Just because you are super close with your guys, your brothers, super close within the brotherhood, doesn't mean that you can't be friends and can't be close with these other people. There's nothing to say that you can't be, and one is not exclusive of the other. And I think sometimes people get into that mindset without even thinking about it, without even realizing that they're doing it. They think that, well, I'm a villain. Okay, great. So what? These guys over here are just cool too. They're not, especially when you take into account that, hey, one of our favorite sayings is BV ain't for everybody. And I don't mean that in a good way or a bad way. It's just true. One of the requirements that they have within BV is that you have to do this stuff with Instagram. Some people say, screw that. And that immediately eliminates them from being able to be a part of, you don't have to go crazy with, oh, look at my beard, but it's one of the formats that you have to do stuff, especially in your initial phases when you're starting out. Some people say, I don't do social media. I don't want to. I never will. Sorry. And okay, fine. But it doesn't make them a bad person.
Right.
In a lot of ways, it makes them smart. I mean, that they don't want to deal with all that crap. It doesn't make them a bad person. So, I've met over the years, and I'm sad. I'm a little sad that it's not. I haven't been to it if it's even still in existence. The first couple of years that I was in BV, we used to go down to Louisville and for an event called Whiskermania.
Yeah.
And Whiskermania was a lot of fun because we got to sit there and talk to and meet guys from other clubs, that some clubs that I never even knew existed. One of the first when the first BVIN event, or the first Whiskermania event I went to, I was still a part. We only had one chapter in Indiana. It was BVIN. Went down there with probably 8-10 of us that went down for that event, that first Whiskermania I went to. One of the guys that gets up on stage, he's from some beard club that I've never heard of, beard and mustache something or another, based out of Indianapolis.
I think I know what you're talking about.
And I looked around at the guys I was standing next to, and what? What? And he had an awesome beard, and we were like, how did we, what? And we were stunned. We didn't even know this club existed, and we didn't even know why. We felt like we were missing out on this guy, and it was like, so it's, I mean, that's what I just wish guys would recognize, get out of your comfort zone. And it's similar to what we tell our guys. I know what we're always harping on our guys in our chapter about, is that, hey, everybody's a little different. Everybody has their own personality, but get out there and meet these guys. We say that at all the different events that we go to. And that's, to me, that's one of the things I'm really looking forward to for this Saturday, meeting people that I've never met in person before, and being able to have that connection to talk to people, and actually not just, hey, how you doing? We'll walk away. I want to talk to people. I want to hear about them, hear the story. That interests me. Why are you the way you are? What pushes your buttons? What makes you, what is the thing that inspires you? These are the kind of things I want to hear from people. And you only get that from opening yourself up to talk to other people.
One of the taglines, and I say it at the end of every show, is, no matter what, leave things better than how you found them. And that's not just about, material things or anything like that. That's also about people. Leave people better than how you found them. The main tagline of the show is to leave a legacy. And a lot of people get that mixed up. For me, like, when I say leave a legacy, what I'm saying is, it goes back to an old saying. I think it came from a movie, as a matter of fact. Is probably tied to it, and it's I think it's even said in Harry Potter is like, if you're as long as you're remembered, you're never really gone.
Yeah.
And that resonates with me on a lot of different levels,
Yeah.
because like, if I can make an impact on somebody else's life
Mm-hmm.
for the good, then I've done something. That is leaving a legacy.
Yeah.
And it could be you needed $5, for a sandwich, or I covered your entry fee for a competition, or I donated to the charity of your choice, but you'll remember that.
Yeah.
And that's really what it's about. Is it's about, for me, it's about making a lasting impact on people and helping people that need it, you know,
Yeah.
and that's where I've been at. And I do want to kind of backtrack a little bit. Um, some chapters require frequent posts and go dark. So social media wise, that's probably why I could never be a villain. Uh, is because I am. If you guys go and look at my personal Instagram and my Bearding Without Borders, I am the most inconsistent person, and I should be a lot better about it. And I'm just not. I feel like I need to hire somebody to run my Instagram for me.
that part varies from chapter to chapter, but I get what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah.
But and I need to be better about it. And just like Jake said, he's like talking about he does it for his business. And if you've never looked at Jacked Up Leatherworks, you guys should. The man is a pure artist. I'm hoping to get some pieces from him.
Yeah.
I got a
Jake,
piece.
while I got you on the air here, do me a favor, throw your, if you got a website or if you've got a Facebook page or whatever it is you go through, if you've got that, throw that here in the comment section, please. So
Do it, Jacob.
I want it to be in here so we can support you if anybody's interested in doing something.
I've got a piece from one of his apprentices, and I love it. And I'm like, I need to get some more work done. I need a simplistic wallet for some things. And I'm like, I want Jacked Up to do it for me. So, but I look at the villains, and this kind of ties back to what we were talking about, like between like some clubs being more of a social club versus what the villains being more of a brotherhood. And I want to make this very clear, as somebody who comes from the fraternal order, the secret society world, I look at the villains as as a fraternal order. I look at the villains as the Freemasons of the beard community, so to speak. Is they take in a certain type, that's what works for them. It's their brotherhood, and uh, it's what blends for you guys, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just think that people have, because you guys you have strict requirements. This is your rules. These are your tenants. That people forget. People forget that there's organizations like that everywhere, and so they immediately kind of pull away. As somebody who's been in the quote unquote secret society world, like, people look at you a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
You say, "Oh, I'm a member of this. It's a fraternal order. Oh, so it's a secret society." Well, we have rituals that are, not public, so I guess you could call us that. But so people look at you differently, and I think that not everybody has that, that negative outlook. But I do think that as a community, we could do better as a whole, both sides of the community, to come together and work more. And I'm hoping that this is a turning point, by doing what we did tonight, to be more involved in each other's lives.
Yeah.
And,
I
I know that me and you are going to talk, quite religiously. So,
yeah, it's funny because you, I can't even remember how far back it was. We had a brother who was talking. He would always share, this message of be the light, and I kind of took his push a little bit and mentioned. I think it was during one of my morning shows back when I was doing a morning show as well, a couple times a week, where I think there's a really cool analogy that people I think sometimes forget, and that is the idea that just because you're shining a light on somebody else, just because you're shining a light on somebody else's doings, on what they're doing, it doesn't diminish yours. It
Right.
doesn't take away anything from what you're doing. And it doesn't cost you or it doesn't cost you anything to do it. And it's a fun analogy to be able to say what happens when you have one light is great. You have a second light to it, that's great. But what happens when you bring two lights together? And the physical form of being able to do that, and there's a recording I have out there somewhere in the realms of this show where I have two long stem candles and I take one, they're both lit together, but I show on camera what happens, put two together. And this wick here, this light is this tall, this light's this tall. When you join them together, the flame goes 3 times as high.
Right.
And it's a really cool thing. And so that's just emblematic of, being able to recognize and being able to see through the crap and say, let's go over here and they're not us. They're not what we do. They're not our club, and that's fine. It doesn't make them bad. It makes them different, and let's go see what they're about. And that's that's really, really, really cool to do that. And there's some really cool people out there in the bearding community that one of the things that I always laugh about is that when we go to non-bearded villain beard comps, when you go to a beard comp that is predominantly the competitors are non-BV people, you always feel like, and there's a handful of really good beards out there in BV land, but the people that are non-BV, heads and tails for the most part, because this is what they live for. These comps are, I'm coming to take the prize. I'm coming to have, it's charity, but they get dressed up. We just wear our patch shirts, but sometimes they'll come in fancified, and it's impressive. And
I come in dapper. That's my style. I go in. If you look at pictures of me from past competitions, I've got suspenders, a nice collared shirt on, slacks, and I do a handlebar mustache, and that's the way I do it. Iron sharpens iron. The truth, I fucking love that.
Yep, 100%.
But now I'll tell you what, can't take nothing away. Jason Berger, BB.
Yeah,
that man he's honestly one of the sweetest people I've ever met. And he dresses up.
Yeah.
When he comes out. Bearded Jake from Northern Ohio, he dresses up when he comes out.
We have a few, but for the most part,
everybody wears patch shirts.
Anybody that comes to, well, our event's a little bit different, Northern Indiana in October, because it's a costume. A lot of people wear costumes, but this weekend it'd be a perfect example. Anybody that's going to Bearded Theater this weekend down in Columbus, Beard Mom's putting this thing on. I can only imagine that there's going to be some epic beards and there's going to be some epic outfits out there.
The judges panel is epic.
Yes.
I don't know if you've seen it.
I've seen who the judges are, and I can't wait.
Speaking of one of them is Jason Berger.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Jason's there. And you have the epic of all epic goatees, I think that's going to be, or not goatees, whalers, that's going to be a judge there as well, right? So,
yes, sir.
It's going to be a fun time. But the 3, 4, 5 of us from Northern Indiana that are coming down, you may just see a bunch of patch shirts and that's it. You might see some good beards, but this is not.
I consider it a good beard.
Outside of BV circles, I might get a placing at a BV event, but anytime I've ever gone to an event where the majority of the people are from Bearded Mustache Society clubs and things like that outside of BV, I've never placed any higher than like halfway up the rung.
We tend to go.
It's fine.
What's up, Mark? We tend to go out, and I'll be honest with you. I'm following my own train of thought, but I love dressing up for these.
Yeah. And I get too hot. I get frustrated with it. I get too hot. No.
And the funny part is like while I was in a club, because mind you, I'm pretty much a free agent at this point. There's only one club that I'm actually associated with now.
He's back to being a free agent.
I am actually associated with Talking Beards, the club, which
Okay.
is the club that Aaron, Scott, and Natalie founded.
Right.
Um, and there's a very small group of us that we work together and do good things, but we don't do. I was actually there at Beards on the Bend. I was the one that took first in the full beard styled mustache category.
There you go.
So that's my go-to category is full beard styled mustache.
Yeah.
So if you are going to run a competition, and I do make it up there in northern Indiana, you got to have that category. Otherwise, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Well, prepare to be disappointed, because here's the thing, and this is what we found, is that in the past, now it could be something that changes in the future, but because, and this kind of goes back to one of the things that while we're talking about this tonight,
Yeah.
we want to spur some integration. I
Yeah.
guess is a good word for it, where non-BV and BV clubs get together and do stuff together and attend each other's events. As a matter of fact, I know that like one of the things you said, I think you said on your show last hour, was that a lot of guys say don't go. That there's a theory out there, don't go to a BV event because that's all for BV and nobody outside of BV wins. The last several that I've been to, some of the best and the highest rated and the ones that win the beard competitions, when there have been non-BV people there, they've placed very well, if not first place. As a matter of fact, one guy in Southern Indiana was not BV and he won best in show last year, I think.
And
So we
and I
look forward to that.
not been my experience.
Yeah.
Like, that's just what I kept hearing when I first got into the community. And I went to Jeremiah's event last year. Now, granted, it's a funny story. So the day that Jeremiah ran the BBKY comp down here in the Lexington area was also the same day that I was officiating a wedding.
Okay.
So I had to go and officiate this wedding, and was like, all right, I'm going to officiate the wedding. We should be able to make it back in time for the competition, make it to the competition, because it was like just one side of Lexington versus the other. And we finished up the wedding, did the pictures and stuff like that, and we skipped the reception and hauled ass towards the comp. And he had a full beard styled mustache category on the comp. Luckily, I was already styled up, because when I officiate weddings, I style up my mustache anyway. So we get there, and they had just finished the category.
Oh.
Like my guys had registered me, but I wasn't there for it.
Oh.
So I walked up, and it was Jeremiah Duncan, Brian Furby, and I can't remember the other gentleman's name that was up there. And I was like, "Hey guys, sorry I was late." Went up there, shook their hands, and said, "Hey, sorry I was late. I was officiating a wedding, but I just wanted to say thank you guys for coming out and hosting this competition to help raise money for Eastern Kentucky during the flood victims."
Right.
And I ended up still taking third that night.
There you go. They penalize you for lateness, for tardiness, but that's okay.
Yeah, but like they were like, "Dude, you still had a great mustache. You had a great showing, and you still, you still came up and shook our hands."
Yeah.
Most people just sat at their table, and I was like, "That's not the way I function,"
Right.
because I believe in the gentleman lifestyle.
Yeah.
But
to your point about the categories, what we found was the very first year we had several categories, but we didn't have enough people in the categories, and we had made prizes for them, which is
Right.
something that happens when you're not hosting a national type of event. You have that trick bag where you're trying to determine how many categories is the right number of categories so that we're not overextending ourselves with all this other stuff. And so we've kind of honed it down, and now we basically have it whittled down to like 5 categories that we do, because otherwise we may end up with, like, if you have 7 or 8 categories, you may end up with an empty category you've just made 3 trophies for.
I found out this year when I ran my first competition.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So what we end up doing is we have a styled category that includes anything that's not a full beard. So that includes mustaches only. That includes freestyle. That includes if you want to do a full beard with a mustache styled. Yeah. All that stuff goes into that one category. So yeah, it's not a true official sounding beard comp per se, but it's the best that we've come up with so that we can not end up with, one person per category, and so you'll have to be disappointed with that. But you believe
Yeah,
me, if you come up,
just
you won't even
Yeah.
notice your disappointment because the whole night's gonna be fun anyway. But
So, and I've got a wedding to officiate the day before your competition, but I am going to make a best effort. I may be sleeping in your studio. Me and the wife maybe have to pile up in your studio that night, but
it's gonna be a tight fit. I got 2 guys from England coming here to stay.
oh well, I mean, I snuggle well.
Okay, we'll tell them.
I call dibs on Big Spoon. That's all I'm saying. But we may have to make that trip up. If you'd like, actually, I can drop a bit of breaking news.
Yes, we need it. Hang on a second. Let me get appropriate here.
We're almost an hour and a half in.
Yeah, we're that's all right. Breaking news. Go.
I feel like I'm on an episode of Law and Order now.
Exactly.
So, December the 2nd, Bearding Without Borders is partnering with Country Boy Brewing, and we are running a competition called the 12 Beards of Christmas. We are doing the competition is going to be in support with the Kentucky State Police for Toys for Tots. And we are going to be taking donations for the Toys for Tots in lieu of money to pay for the competition. If you can't bring a toy, you can donate money to that, and we're going to take that to the Angel Tree, and we're going to go pick out myself and my team and Country Boy are going to go together, and we're going to pick out some kids on the Angel Trees, and we're going to get a bunch of toys for them and stuff that they need.
What's the date and location?
December the 2nd here in Lexington, Kentucky at the Country Boy Brewing Tap House. And I will I'm not going to say my judges yet because I haven't officially announced it, but I am bringing 5 judges down from all over the country, and at least 2 of them are current world champions.
Nice.
So it's going to be
takes me out of the running.
But I'm also running one in the spring. You never know, BP. May have to jump in on that.
I won't be able to obtain world champion status by then.
Well, no, but this one's a big deal. So we are actually going to be running a couple of different special categories. We're going to run a Santa Claus category. We may actually even have a live Santa Claus down there to take pictures.
Awesome.
But I am also going to run, and this is a special one, and I'm dropping the news here, is we're going to run a Krampus category.
Oh.
Instead of a Sasquatch category, we're going to have a Krampus category that'll be open to everyone. That if you want to dress up as Krampus, you can come down and dress up as Krampus.
Very cool.
So,
very cool. 12 Beards of Christmas, December 2nd, Lexington, Kentucky. Very cool.
And I'll have more details about that, and I'll make sure BP gets the event page out, gets the event page so he can share it out as well.
Yeah.
But it will be a partnership between myself and Country Boy Brewing. Great beer. If you've never tried it, I recommend it. But awesome. Something I've been in the works with since June, and it's coming to fruition, and I'm hoping to have the flyer out sometime later this month.
Good.
So,
yeah, sure. Wait, now this goes back to something we talked about for both our show and last show, the beard calendar. It doesn't get much simpler than that.
It really does.
If you're ever looking for something, and these guys have done such an amazing job, not only compiling all the information from all the different bearding events around the country, but links, when there's a link available to a Facebook page or something like that, they include the link to it. But it's the beard calendar. There's even an app.
Yeah.
It's not hard. It doesn't get much simpler than that. The beard calendar. If you have a phone that has a smartphone feature, download it. And if you don't, then just remember beard calendar. How do I know? It's a beard calendar. Go to a beard calendar. And you can find all sorts of events. And I almost guarantee, I'd almost put money on it, that in a given 6-month period of time, not just a year, in a given 6-month period of time, you could probably find, unless you're on one of these outlier states that's just, you don't see people for 3 hours, you're so far out in the boonies. there's a good chance that within a few hours drive, there's something over a 6-month period that you could go to attend. You don't need to hop on a plane.
Nope.
And so, just make a day of it, especially if it's just a day trip, guys. Just to be out there and helping other people. It's funny that we were talking earlier about, when you talk about legacy and things, and this is something that I wrote down because it's something that it's kind of a morbid thought process. As you get older, you start paying attention to that thing like the legacy. You start paying attention to, you start paying attention to those weird things about how you're going to be remembered, And I'll never forget, I used to always wake up every morning, either listening to or watching on the days that I was home, Mike and Mike, the Mike and Mike morning show on ESPN. And I wish, and I've tried to Google it to figure out, now there's no video of it that's out there that I can find. But I remember one morning, years ago, they announced the passing of a colleague of theirs. And it wasn't anybody that, it wasn't somebody that worked for ESPN. It was somebody that was a sports writer from another place. But they announced the passing of it. And they talked about what this guy's impact was on their lives, and how every time you walked into a room with this guy, you felt better, and how, and I'll never forget Mike Greenberg saying, I think the best thing that you could ever say about somebody in their life is that knowing them made you better.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me so hard. And ever since I heard that, I try to push that and with myself and live that way, so that I don't want somebody's last interaction with me to be a negative one. I don't want, and I want to be able to be, from that morbid side of things, I think is what you think when you talk about legacy. I want people to feel like I had some positive impact on their life. And being in this bearding community is one of the best ways you can do that. It gives you, there's many people out there that do stuff outside of BV or do stuff outside of a bearding community that they're a part of. And that's perfectly fine. But being a part of this community, no matter what club you're a member of, it's just another resource that you have it's another tool in your toolkit where you can go out and change the lives of other people. And I want to just impress upon people to take those opportunities to do just that. And never be afraid to go out of your comfort zone to meet these people that you don't know otherwise, because you never know when that person you meet is going to be the person that does that for you, that is somebody that becomes a lifelong friend that will impact your life.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I when I first reached out to you, I thought I was like, this would be a really cool idea just to do this together. But it's turned into so much more, and I know that most of our conversations, because you've got a busy life, I've got a busy life, have been, hey, when are we doing this? Let's get this together. But I feel like we've connected, in the brief spurts that we've had a chance to really talk, that I see you as a close friend at this point. And I know that, past this show, it's going to continue.
Yeah.
We're going to still talk about doing stuff together. And who knows, I'm sure I'll have you back on the show to talk about your upcoming comp, going down.
Yeah.
We get closer. So,
well, and I know you've talked about that you have a lot of, that one of your passion projects for the future is that you want to do a film yourself. And we've talked about that. And I'm telling you right now, and if I haven't already told you, off air or anything like that, if there's anything I can do to help you out with that, if you need help with doing some extra filming of some stuff or being a part, I'll be more than happy to help you do whatever I can to help your vision come to life for that. It's a passion project for me. So.
And I want to do that. And like I said, the biggest thing for me is I got to get the equipment together. And so one of the things, and I know I mentioned it to you, and if it's okay, I'll say it here, is I've thought about going through crowdfunding, but I don't want to take anything away from anybody else. So I've been trying to do this on my own to get the equipment together. So I'll be picking your brain on the right kind of camera and stuff like that. Because the one thing I don't want to do is I don't want to take money away from charities in this event. If people want to donate and they want to help, I will be more than happy to take their donations and put it to good use when it comes to this. But I want to do something positive, and I want to paint, our community in a better light. One of the things that got me interested, once I realized what the beard community was Whisker Wars. But it was just over dramatized. And I take nothing away from the people that were on there that, that told their story and had fun with it. But the community has evolved so much since that time.
Yeah.
You're talking 2009 through like 2012.
Yeah. Long time ago now.
Yeah. The community doesn't even resemble
No.
what it did then.
Yeah.
Back
you
they
look
were
back
just
and watch that and you just kind of laugh.
They were doing it for competition, just to get out there and compete and work their way up to worlds, and now, like, most people don't even think about, like, they don't think about worlds until it's almost like an afterthought. They don't think about it until it's time for it to come up, unless you are a returning champion or you're really deep into the competition circuit. You don't even think about it. Most of the time we think about, well, what are we doing for the community? And I've put hours and hours and hours of travel time and and the show time and stuff like that. Like I said earlier on my show earlier, is like, we drove to LaGrange, Texas, and back. I think the whole weekend it was over 30 hours of driving, over 1,800 miles. We spent over $2,000.
Yeah.
And we were gone from Thursday to Monday.
Yeah.
Like, we
Crazy
left Thursday.
how it adds up.
Yeah, we left Thursday night, after we got off work. Me and my wife had both been up since early that morning. We left at like 6 p.m., drove straight through, got to LaGrange, Texas at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon Friday, went and dropped our stuff at the hotel, went and run out to go, because I, being a dumbass, forgot my boots and stuff for my outfit. And so I had to go out and find shoes and then go to the meet and greet and then go to the competition on Saturday. Sunday, we skipped the hangover brunch, went and seen some family, and then got back on the road and headed back home. Pulled into Lexington at 7 o'clock Monday morning, and I had to start work at 7:05. So,
yeah,
like,
but that's what we do. I mean, if you have an opportunity. Now, that's not what I would do. I hop on a plane instead. I went to LSV 2 years ago for in Texas, and they asked me to come down and be MC. I was like, "You want a guy from Northern Indiana be MC? Okay, sure, I'll come down." And that was my excuse to come down to Texas that weekend.
right.
Yeah, I drove. I flew. I wasn't going to make my drive. No way. But I've done the 15-hour drives to other parts of the country for different events too. And yeah, it's not that part of it's not great, but it's a really cool thing when you get there and you get to see the people. And so yeah, it's not for everybody to travel. Everybody has different things, different parts of their life that, financially you may be able to only go to one thing a year, and that's understandable. But what we need to do is recognize, especially in the villain community, you've got brothers and you've got chapter members, you've got brothers within your state, that you could jump into somebody, carpool. You don't have to drive by yourself. Get in a car with your brothers that you're so close with and jump in a car, split the gas money to drive 3 or 4 hours, take a day of it, leave in the morning, you get back at night. You've had all this brotherhood time with your close brothers, but you also went over and supported something else that wasn't you. And that's a cool thing to do.
Road tip. If you are going to be in a car with your 3 brothers, do not let the one that driving needs to be the one that doesn't fart. Because the one that is gassy, if they have control of the windows,
yeah,
you're ruined.
It's just a death sentence. You're going to hotbox everybody. Yeah, you got to be careful with that.
No, yeah. And JD, that's awesome, man. I can't wait to see you. I'll have the flyer up here soon. Like I said, man, I even made the comment, hey, Salem in early October is great. We went to Salem last year. It was the week of Halloween, but we went to Salem last year. Me and my wife took a week-long trip and drove up the Eastern Seaboard, and then finished it at Monsters Ball for Mad Viking in Pittsburgh. But Salem was a lot of fun. But no, what I was getting at earlier though is like I made a post on Facebook the day that Monday after You Matter, and I laid it all out. Spent this much money, this many hours in the car, like this many miles. And I was like, and I'm running off like 4.5 hours of sleep. I was like, I'm exhausted. I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah.
And that's the way I look at it, from not just like You Matter, but from in general.
Mm-hmm.
Is I'm always excited to go do those.
Yeah. We had some guys last year go up into Michigan to an event that was not one of our events, not a BV event. And through our connections with Mark Burns, if you know Mark,
Sasquatch.
We didn't go to, it wasn't Sasquatch. There was another event that they do. That's kind of a burlesque thing.
Circus of Whiskers.
Yeah. And
that's a wild one.
Yeah. I couldn't make that one. Unfortunately, I had a family thing, but to hear, when I heard those guys went up there, and they went up and back same night, had a blast, said it was a really cool, very different experience, but they got to support somebody else, and that's the thing, I think, boys and girls, that we're trying to push. And we want people to recognize that regardless of what you feel out there, what you've heard, you can't base your own opinions on what you've heard or what the history of XYZ club is, or XYZ chapter is, because there's always turnover. And I think you're shortcutting yourself if you base opinions or choices on what you've heard from past. Until you've experienced it yourself, don't start making opinions on things that I think could change, just if you give yourself the chance.
This is the season of change.
There you go.
We said this earlier. It's like this has been the summer of change, but I'm just going to rephrase that to the season of change. And one of the things that I feel needs to shift is the more, like, we need to be better about reaching out with our fellow brothers and sisters and being more involved. Whether it's like, for me, like, Bearding Without Borders is not just the name of my show. It's a lifestyle. I don't care what club you're a part of. I don't look at it as a club, like when I call BP, I don't call BP because he's a villain. I call BP because I want to check on him. Same with, Jason Sealand or Scott Hanty, who is the international president of Mad Viking, or, I call Turns, the president of the Mad Viking Florida chapter, or I call Ron Rice, who is Beard Mob, and he's a Beard Mob president of the East. Yeah. Or I'll reach out to Boo, who is one of the founders of Beard Mob, or I talk to Aaron. It's like I can name 100 people that I talk to on a regular basis, not because of their club affiliation, but because I genuinely enjoy those people and I love helping support what they're doing. Yeah. And I think as a whole, we've put so much emphasis on club titles and club, what club we're a part of, that we've kind of, some of us, and I'll be the first to say, I'll take the blame on this one as myself, is we've lost part of what we do by focusing on clubs. And so, as somebody that came from being the vice president and acting president of Mad Viking Kentucky chapter, moving into, just my show at this point, I've decided, because like I've had a lot of people from Mad Viking say, "Oh, well, are we going to start another club?" And it's like, right now I don't want to, because I need to, since I've been in the community, I've been a part of a club, and now I'm on the outside, and it's like, I don't want to feel like I'm, limited to that. And that's something
you don't want to be beholden to anything. You, as you say, a free agent, but it gives you the ability to do a lot of other things with no strings attached.
I can affiliate, and like me and my wife have talked about this. It's like, we want to go out and we want to, if you guys want, some help we're going to travel the 5 hours up to you, and we're going to come and, me and my wife are going to come and help, BV Northern Indiana, or if Sin City Beard Coalition has anything going on, out in Vegas, we're going to do our best to go out there and help, Modesto, just naming all these other clubs and stuff like that. I just want to be involved and help people.
Yeah.
I don't give a damn what your affiliation is at the end of the day, because I'll be the first to tell you, Villains has got the best apparel out of any club. So much so, like, I have been on the website a few times and just be like, man, I just want to buy a shirt. Like, I will rock a Villain shirt just because, like, I think they look great.
Yeah.
And help support my friends that are Villains.
Yeah.
So, but to me, it's about the people as more than anything else. And I think sometimes we get wrapped up in it and we forget that, everybody's got something to offer to this community. And we get so emotionally tied in with what our chapters are doing or what our club as a whole is doing that we forget what's going on, and that I think that's what needs to change.
Dude, that's a great way to end it. We've been an hour and 50 minutes on this episode. Boy, one of the longest episodes ever.
Guys, part 2.
Oh man. Okay. Well,
He's
hey,
like, I'm done talking to you now. So.
We've been, but not only an hour and 50 minutes on this here program, but an hour before that. So damn near 3 hours here talking this stuff. This is good.
Guys.
This is good. Man, that's gonna. I just gotta call it, man. We can talk all night. But thank you so much for being here, Bearded Rook. We're gonna call it. That's his name. Don't forget it. It's been awesome. It's been so good. I know we're going to continue this conversation later, we're going to keep going forward with it. So, but just do yourself a favor, guys. Go out of your comfort zone and go meet people that are not part of your club, and go out and support everybody.
If you want to find out some things, come and check out the show sometime.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Get out
I'm
there.
on like 2 hours earlier than him.
Yep. 2 hours earlier. Tell everybody where it's at again.
You can go on to the YouTube channel, and I'm actually going to push the YouTube because I really want to get the subscriber list up at Bearding Without Borders. You can come on there. You can find the episode that we did earlier tonight where me and BP got on there and cut it up, among other episodes. I've even got some playlists broken down to talk about some of the previous events that I've been a part of. And come and have some fun, hear it out, and I try to introduce people in the community to some of these people. I actually just did one a few weeks ago with Bob and Elliot the Mustache. If you guys have heard of him, he's a big TikToker and Instagram guy, and told his story. So that was a fun episode. And I'm also, just for the record, I will be at PopCon in Indianapolis in a few weeks. Got a little breaking news for you. I'll be at PopCon doing a live podcast at PopCon this year.
Good luck with that. Those live ones are hard to do.
Yeah. Well, why don't you come down and join me, VP?
I don't know if I'm available, but let me check the date. Get back with me off air and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, thanks so much for being here. And just keep doing what you're doing, man. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Hey, you know what? The music means it. It's the end. That's going to wrap up episode 187. Episode 187 of this here show. I want to thank my guest, Bearded Rook, for both hours and almost 3 hours we've been talking about this stuff. It's important. Get out there. Meet the other people out there in the bearding community for sure. Guys, as I challenge you all the time, remember, be the villain that the world needs you to be, because the heart of a villain never stops beating. The most important words I say every week. I say them every week, and please never forget them. If you, just don't forget. The same words. You're used to it. You know it. What do I say? Never forget, it's okay not to be okay. If you are hurting, please find a brother to talk to. Remember, it's okay not to be okay. Hey guys, I'll see you back here next week for episode 170 or 88. Have a great night, a great weekend ahead. Until then, next week, take care, stay safe.
It's the heart of a villain. It's the heart